IVM.
Hi guys, thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Edges Sledges Cricket Podcast. This week's episode is brought to you by Storytel, a leading provider of audiobooks and ebooks with nearly 100,000 titles in its catalogue. So while our podcast is being sponsored by Storytel, we're going to be recommending a book a week. This week's book is No Spin. It's Shane Warne's autobiography. It's really interesting, full of really crazy incidents from throughout his career. So go and check it out, guys. The good news is Storytel is giving you a 30-day free trial instead of the usual 14-day free trial if you go to it from this link. The link is storytel.com/IVM. That's storytel.com/IVM. So guys, go and check it out. It's a really interesting book. And yeah, enjoy this week's episode, guys. It's an absolute cracker.
Welcome to episode 77 of the Edges Sledges Cricket Podcast. We have a full house today. I'm Ashwin, your host for this week, joining you from Cincinnati in the US, but joining me from both their home cities for the first time in a while. DJ is in London and Varun's in Singapore. So DJ, let me come to you first. It's been about over a week basically since India played. Are you enjoying the break a little bit, or are you feeling a little bit of a void in your life and itching for the test matches to start?
Well, it's a bit weird that there's no actual cricket going on, but again, cricket's in the news, man, and I'm sure there's never a dearth of topics, especially when it comes to Indian cricket, because somebody or the other is making a controversial statement somewhere. So it's been an interesting week, let's say.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think, and Varun, how are you feeling about the week of cricket? I think DJ is right where he says there's been a lot going on. We'll talk a lot about it, but a lot of the conversation has been about your current new favorite player, and that's, of course, Rishabh Pant. So are you bullish? Are you feeling a little bit nervous about the test series, or just give me a quick, how are you feeling?
No, I'm feeling good. I want to see some good test cricket at home. Haven't seen that for a while, but yeah, in my part of the world, actually, there is a lot of cricket going on. You've got Singapore, Zimbabwe, and Nepal all playing a tri-series in Singapore. So while not many people are following it, I am still seeing it every now and then.
Do you think you're going to be able to get to watch any of it?
I don't think so. The idea was to see if we can go today, but it started raining. So yeah.
So rain has been disappointing us pretty much across most of the globe this past week. But anyway, if you're a first-time listener, Edges and Sledges is a weekly cricket podcast hosted obviously by the three of us. And we are actually, if you're listening to us on Monday, September 30th, we wanted to wish you, all our listeners, a happy International Podcast Day. I'm not exactly sure what that is. There seems to be a happy something day for every occasion now. But hey, as podcasters, we have to celebrate it. But more than that, we wanted to start this episode by sending a huge thank you out there for making us the #1 cricket podcast in India. We've had that spot once in a while. We've had certain episodes do really well, but it is pretty exciting now for us to consistently see us as the #1 cricket podcast in India and the number 2 among all sports podcasts. So guys, thanks for all the hard work in getting us there. To all our listeners, thank you for consistently tuning in. We're excited to come to you every single week. We are going to start with the upcoming India-South Africa Test Series. So Varun, let me start with you first. We talked about Rishabh Pant a little bit. There's been some comments in the news. Do you want to share those with our listeners? Yuvraj Singh has weighed in a little. Ravi Shastri has weighed in a little. What's going on with Rishabh Pant, and how's he going to fare in the upcoming Test Series?
Yeah, there's been a lot of news about Rishabh Pant, and Yuvraj Singh actually came out. There was an article on Cricinfo where Yuvraj Singh started talking a little bit about, firstly, himself, and how, he was asked to do the yo-yo test and he thought it was a way for him to probably not get in the team. He actually trained, and then there was zero communication. So I think he felt a little bit disappointed on that. I still think Yuvraj Singh probably didn't deserve a place in the latest World Cup squad. But what's interesting is he's come out and made a little bit of a point around making people feel secure. And we've had that debate a lot over the last year on this show, where Kohli and Shastri seem to not like giving players a longer run. They seem to like this kind of mixing it up, figuring out different people at different positions. And I think when it came to Pant, Yuvraj Singh actually said that the coach and captain need to really mentor him well, because he is a world-class player. Shastri, on the back of that, I've seen 2 comments. I'm not sure if you guys have seen different comments, but a couple of days ago said something along the lines of, if I don't scold Rishabh Pant, then what is my role in the team? Am I just here to play the tabla? And I think, Ashwin, you thought that he actually does play the tabla, so I think we got a little confused there.
That would have been great. It would have been just the visual of Shastri playing the tabla is just great for me. So anyway.
And of course, our friend Ritik also plays the tabla, so Rohan was just saying if you all could have a triple jugalbandi, that would be great. Ravi Shastri. But yeah, so he's come out and said Pant is a great player, but I have to pull him out on, every time he makes a bad mistake. And then I think yesterday I saw a quote where he's like, he's a world-class player and we're going to back him all the way. So I don't know what's going on. I think Pant, every time I see him coming to bat in at least the shorter formats of the game, he looks under pressure, he looks stressed, and I don't think that's a good sign. But Test match cricket is a little bit different in India, so I do back him to not only play but also perform.
Yeah, thanks. Very insightful. DJ, let me come to you. It was just you and I on the show last week. It feels like maybe Edges and Sledges is becoming a Rishabh Pant story. But let me ask you a little bit quickly about him, because we spent a lot of time talking about him. I know you're a fan of Saha, and I know you sometimes say you felt he drew the short straw by missing out despite pretty much solid, consistent performances. Do you think for the upcoming home season, Saha deserves a spot ahead of Pant, or do you think Pant has earned it?
So it's quite a tricky question because Pant came in when Saha was injured, right? And he was the number one wicketkeeper. With Pant, what I find suspect is actually his keeping, because I don't think he's played a home test match, right? And that is what I'm more worried about than his batting. I think they're probably both of equal value with the bat, but the keeping and Pant's performance behind the stumps is what I think will be the deciding factor between the two. And I think Saha is actually the better wicketkeeper by quite a distance. So my two bits on Pant versus Saha.
So what's your prediction? Which of them do you think is going to play in the first test match in 3 days' time?
I think Pant is going to play because of all the controversy that's going on. And I mean, he is under pressure now because of the comments that have been in the media. Slightly unnecessary, I find, both with Yuvraj as well as Ravi Shastri. I mean, he's a young player. He's 21 years old. He's done pretty well in test match cricket until now. It's unnecessary, right? And it's because you haven't had that much interesting stuff going on. There was the Rohit and Kohli rift, which went on for a while, and now suddenly all the attention is on Rishabh Pant. And until he comes out and scores some runs or takes some blinding catches, that's going to continue. And that's just the way the Indian cricket circus goes, man.
Yeah, fair enough. The Indian cricket circus. Well said. I want to address one thing you mentioned is he hasn't played a home test. He has actually played 2 tests at home and scored 2 half centuries. So, I mean, he's hit 184 and only been out twice. So if you looked at his home statistics with the bat, he looks pretty solid, but obviously very, very small samples.
Who are the tests he played against, though?
I don't have that handy. All I looked at is home versus away. But let's see if we can figure this out really quick.
Because I can't remember who he would have played, actually.
He played one in Hyderabad. And anyway, I don't remember who he played. We'll figure it out. If we do, we'll update you before the end of the episode. So, Varun, last thought from you. You obviously think he deserves a spot on the side, right?
Absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind.
In an ideal world, in a test match, where would Rishabh Pant bat for you?
He would definitely bat below Vihari.
Below Vihari. So that's 7?
That's 7, yes.
Okay, interesting. So we're going to spend a little more time talking about the batting order. DJ, I was able to pull it quickly, and it looks like he played his tests against the West Indies. One of them in Hyderabad, he made 92, and the second one at the Saurashtra Stadium, where he also made 92. So he's had a couple of West Indies test matches. Okay, so we're going to talk a little more about the batting. I'm going to start up at the top of the order. Varun, let me come to you first, because I know DJ is passionate about this individual player we're looking at. But for the last few test matches across wherever India has played, we've sort of played with Mayank Agarwal, who seems to have solidified his spot, and KL Rahul has opened a few times. KL Rahul obviously not making it the squad this time, and Rohit Sharma is in the squad, and it feels like they're backing him to get an extended run at the top of the order. So, A, do you agree with it? B, did you follow the scoreline of the board President's 11 match and how that went for him?
Yeah, I did. So let me first answer the question. I agree with it. I think this is it, man. This is the shot that Rohit Sharma has to get. I can't discuss it anymore because I think there is no doubt that he's a class player. There is no doubt that he probably deserves a shot at Test cricket. And so I just feel this is it. You score now, you secure your place. You don't score, I think just forget about it and we all have to move on. The board President 11 game was interesting because Rohit Sharma did open the batting with Mayank Agarwal and he scored 0 of 2 balls. So from my perspective, I think while Rohit is lucky to be having this opening chance at home, I think the reality is with Rabada and Philanderer, it's not going to be that simple. So it's going to be up. He will be up for the challenge. I think he deserves the spot, and I think this should be the end of all discussions by the end of this Test series.
Interesting. Let's discuss that a little further. DJ, doesn't it feel like we've said that before, though? Doesn't it feel like we've started Test series where Rohit got selected and said, okay, one more shot, and if he doesn't perform, we're done? And do we have this problem? Is Rohit that X that we can't get rid of in our lives and keep going back to?
Funny that we say that, because we said this before the Australia series, right? And he was the player who was going to bat at 6, and he played the first test, and then he got injured, and then I think he sat out another test, and then he came back. So he was off and on. So he didn't get the whole series, right? And I think what we said was, if he scores about 300 runs, that's a decent series for him. So he should stay on. But he didn't play the whole test series. So for some reason or the other, we still feel like he hasn't been given a fair chance. As for the board president 11 game, I mean, he got a duck. It happens. But it seems to be this is the most famous duck since Don Bradman scored a duck in his last test match, because everyone on Twitter is talking about it. It's just set Twitter on fire. All the Kohli fans are going after the Rohit fans. The Rohit fans are waiting for Kohli to score a duck so they can go back after him. It's insane what's going on. And I mean, I think we've got to put this in perspective. It's a practice match. He's going to get a run for 3 games if he stays fit. And I mean, there's no better way of saying that you deserve a spot in this test team than score runs in a home test series against a quality attack, which will, as Varun said, Philander and Rabada. So good luck to Rohit. I hope he does it. But remember, we've got people waiting in the wings to come back. We've got Prithvi Shaw, who will be done in November. So last chance saloon really for Rohit to score those runs. And also KL Rahul, who scored 100 in the Vijay Hazare trophy recently.
Yeah, I think I don't have the energy anymore to talk about Rahul. I do agree with you guys that Rohit probably deserves the shot. I'd also probably agree this is it, and it's not going to be an easy bowling lineup. I do want to call out, I think Varun referred to the bowling lineup as Rabada and Philanderer, which means something very different to the players' name.
I realized that as soon as I said it.
Yeah, I didn't want to point it out, but I thought that was just I
felt like it was important to point out. So
he's a wanderer.
Philanderer at the Wanderers.
If you don't know what philanderer means, Google it, because I don't want to share too much more. We're a family-friendly show. But all right, let's talk about the rest of the batting order. So it sounds like we're agreeing Rohit and Mayank at the top of the order. It's pretty clear the 3, 4, and 5 are locked, right? Pujara, Kohli, and Rahane. Any objections, any thoughts on that? Would either of you try to mix around with that? Varun, let me start with you.
No, nothing at all. I think it's I think it's just been our test lineup for a while. We've been doing well, so no changes, especially not at home.
Good. DJ, any push on the 3, 4, 5?
No, I don't see anyone really challenging them for a spot at the moment.
Okay, so now it comes to number 6. Varun, let me start with you. The logical sort of choice based on recent performance, based on the ability with the ball for that 6th batsman, whether you play him at 6 or 7, is Hanuma Vihari. Do you think he deserves a spot? I mean, other players in the squad who may be considered, obviously one is Shubman Gill, 2 is Kohli could go with his 5 bowler strategy, in which case neither of them get a slot. So how do you see that 6th batsman slot paying in, assuming slot 7 is the wicketkeeper?
So I think Vihari will play. I think he deserves it. I think it's interesting to also note that because Vihari has done so well, and Rohit, like you said, is the guy we can't get rid of, they've had no option but to force Rohit open. So from my perspective, that's how well Vihari has done, to keep a world-class batsman out, to cement his place at number 6. And I think Kohli had said it as well, and Vihari took it as a big compliment, that Kohli said, when I'm in the dressing room, when Vihari's out there batting, I feel very calm, right? And Vihari's just started his test career. So I think he'll definitely play. I think at least to start, I don't think Kohli will go with this 5 bowler strategy, at least not for the first test.
Interesting. DJ, let me ask you that same question. Do you think Vihari is going to get a slot, and you think it's okay with him being the 5th bowler, basically?
I think it's fine. I mean, he had a great series against the West Indies, got his first test match done. He averages 60 in first-class cricket, 45 odd in test cricket. I think it's hard to drop him on pitches and he's a good player of spin. And if spin is going to play a part on these tracks, I think you can't drop him. And he adds a bit of value with the ball as well. So I don't see Hardik Pandya actually bowling those many overs. Maybe Jadeja, but I think Jadeja merits his spot in this team on his own. So I think, yes, Hanuma Vihari at 6 for me.
The other thing is, I think Pandya is not in the squad, and I think that's why the decision is much easier for us.
Yeah, that's correct. Hardik Pandya is not in the squad this time around. So even in the absence of that, I think the question was, do you play the sixth batsman or do you play the fifth bowler? So I got it. I think
But that's also become our template a bit, right, of late. I mean, we do play six batsmen. It started in Australia. We've carried on with it. There was that theory of 5 bowlers a little while ago, and I think we're slowly going back to the more solid 6 batsmen time that we used to see back in the day of Dada.
Yeah, I think the reason I pushed it a little is just the difference between playing at home and away. And in India, where teams do tend to bat all day sometimes, where there are much higher scores, are you putting too much strain on your 4 bowlers, or are you relying too much on a Vihari as your 5th bowling option?
That's a fair point. But what I was going to say is what I really like about India's test lineup right now is, for many years and decades, probably our ODI and our test batting lineup was exactly the same. What I love about this is you've got a Mayank Agarwal, you've got Pujara, you've got Rahane and Vihari. 4 out of the top 6 are guys who are not in the ODI squad.
Yeah, absolutely. I think well said.
Yeah, I remember there was a time where Suresh Raina was in our test team as well. He scored 78 at Lords, remember, in 2011.
Yeah, so that's the thing. It was almost the same kind of lineup, and I love the fact that it's specialized now.
So Raina has been a little bit in the news as well. We'll talk about that in the second half of this show. But I think it sounds like we're pretty unanimous on what who the 7 batsmen should be. DJ, let me ask you first. So in that world, you've got to pick 4 bowlers, 8 through 11. There was some discussion in the T20 lineup about picking people who can bat over their bowling ability. How do you think the 4 bowlers are going to shake out? And obviously the big question is with Bumrah missing out, right? So for those who missed it, Jasprit Bumrah has pulled out of the South Africa series with an injury. I think it's probably the right thing. Let's keep him focused on the most critical upcoming matches, etc. I think there are some people who feel we shouldn't be playing him as much in meaningless T20s, but that's a discussion I think for a later date. Let's start with who you think the 4 bowlers are going to be, DJ.
So I think it's Ashwin and Jadeja, the 2 spinners, the spin twins, the Ravis, and I think Ishant and Shami. That's pretty much it. I mean, I can't see that changing anytime soon.
Varun, do you agree? I think there was a while when Kuldeep was being groomed for Test cricket. He is in the squad. Do you think he's going to find a way into the 11?
Not to start with, definitely not to start with. I think I agree with DJ's 4. I think that is pretty much what it's going to be. And depending on how these 4 bowlers go, Ashwin, like your comment was, I think the second test will determine whether there's going to be a 5th or not.
So my last question on bowlers, I think that's insightful. My last question on bowlers is Bumrah got injured. There was an open test slot and Umesh was kind of shoot in. And we all seem to have forgotten about Bhuvneshwar Kumar, the test player. So, DJ, let me start with you. Has he just fallen out of favor? Are they preserving him for the limited overs game? But arguably, he doesn't play all that many limited overs matches now. What happened with Bhuvi? And let's remind people that the last time he did play a test match, it was versus South Africa. It was in January of 2018, and he was the man of the match. So what happened? What's going on with Bhuvi?
So was that the Eden Gardens test match that he took some wickets in?
No, that was in Johannesburg.
Oh, in Joburg. Okay, wow.
I mean, just for context, he's played 21 tests. He's taken 63 wickets. Economy rate is below 3. His average is 26, so it's not the best, but it's not that bad. I mean, it doesn't feel like when we talk about batsmen getting an extended run, it doesn't feel like Bhuvi's gotten enough of an opportunity having won man of the match the last time he played, because he took 3 wickets in the first innings and a wicket in the second innings.
Yeah, and I think in that series as well, he played the first test, got dropped for the second test, and then played the third test and got man of the match, right, on that dodgy pitch in Joburg. But I don't know, to be honest, man. He seems to have been slotted, I think, as a limited over specialist. Maybe it has fitness issues. Maybe there's a rotation policy. But Umesh, to be fair, has done pretty well at home in test matches. May not have set the world afire with wickets, but he's bowled some pretty decent spells. He's quick. He's hopefully stopped bowling that ball down the leg side every over. But he's bowled some tight spells, and that contributes to pressure. And I think that's what they've gone with. I mean, Bhuvi was more of a swing bowler, whereas Umesh has actually got pace through the air. So I think that's what they've gone with. So I think Bhuvi is probably unlucky to miss out, but I don't think he actually has a role in home test matches on pitches that don't offer him much assistance, to be fair.
Yeah, fair enough. I think disappointing to see him having fallen out of favor. So I think we're pretty clear on our 11. It's for the first time in a long time. I don't think there's going to be too much additional debate in the last 24 hours before a test. Obviously, Kohli and Shastri have surprised us before. They could do it again and come in with a wild card. Varun, before we cut to a quick break, I want to just quickly ask you about Shubman Gill. So, outstanding kind of list A and first class record over the last few months or few years even. Probably earned his call up to the squad, but does it seem like he'll get a game? And if not, is it better for him to keep playing domestic cricket, or is it good for him to be on the sidelines learning with the main 11?
Yeah, I don't think he's going to get a game, very honestly. I think because the lineup, as we discussed, is quite sorted. So the way I see it is, aside from any injury, he will not play. But I feel like it's better for him to be part of this setup. He's somebody who is going to make his way into the team and the playing 11 very soon. And the more experience you get, the better it is. I mean, playing at this level is completely different. Playing with these guys who you've been watching on TV for the last 5, 7, 10 years. I think it's a very good decision to have him in the dressing room.
Interesting. I think I agree with that. Let's hope he does eventually get a slot. But more than that, hoping that India's 11 can perform admirably in the coming test series. So with that, we're going to take a quick break. We will come back and talk about the South Africa 11 and other things from the world of cricket this week. So join us after this break.
Hey everybody, you know what we've got? We've got another awesome week on the IVM Podcast Network. If you're not following us on social media, please make sure you do. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. So if you haven't been following us on YouTube, please do a search for IVM CCTV and get a peek inside what's going on in the studio. You can see excerpts from Cyrus Says, Naveen from Keeping It Queer, Akash from Varta Lab. There's stuff that we've done with Feeding 10 Billion. There are a whole bunch of little videos over there. Give it a watch and let us know what you think about that. On the scene and the unseen, Amit Verma is joined by journalists Varun Mitra and Kumar Anand to discuss the crisis in agriculture. On Agla Station Adulthood, hosts Ayushi and Ritasha discuss various interpretations of beauty and also share some amazing skincare routines. On Feeding 10 Billion, Ramya and Varun talk to Dr. Sandhya Sriram of Shiok Meats about bringing cell-based shrimp to our restaurants. On 9XM Soundcast, Eva is joined by the incredible music composer duo Vishal and Shekhar. They talk about the process of creating a soundtrack and give their views about the remix trend in Bollywood. On the Edges Sledges Cricket Podcast, Ashwin and DJ conclude the Ashes and talk about the failure of Indian middle order in the T20s. On the Kinetic Living Podcast, Coach Urmi shares a workout called Arc Planks on Tabata Tuesdays. On Thriving Thursdays, she shares her journey towards building kinetic living and the challenges that she faced. On Varta Lab, Akash and Naveen are joined by Shashwat Bulusu, a singer-songwriter from Baroda who is pushing the sonic aesthetic of guitar-centric laid-back pop. On Geek Fruit, Dinkar and Jishnu talk about pop culture that revolves around the apocalypse and tell us how they would ideally prepare for it. On Football Shutball, hosts Gaurav, Karthik and Siva bring to you the post-match reactions of their favorite fixture of the year, Manchester United versus Arsenal. That's no surprise to anybody. And with that, let's get you on with your show.
Welcome back to the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast. We have just finished previewing the Indian side for the upcoming India-South Africa Test series, the first test of which kicks off on October 2nd in Visakhapatnam, so that's Wednesday of this coming week. We want to talk a little bit quickly about the South Africa side. So, DJ, let me start with you. The big question everybody's asking is, this is it, South Africa's first real Test series since Hashim Amla retired. Do you think South Africa has the batting depth and the batting strength that it takes to move on in the post-Amla era, or is this going to be a blow-away series for the Indian bowlers?
So to tell the truth, I don't know enough about enough South African batsmen, and it's going to be batsmen that win you a series in India. We saw in 2012, it was the English batsman that helped the English bowlers win the series, right? Markram is obviously in some sparkling form. He scored 200s on tour already. He's looking good, and he's a known quantity. He succeeded at the test level already. But there's no AB de Villiers either this time. So the last time these two teams played, every time South Africa were in trouble, AB would come and score a quick 50, 60 odd, right? And would just bail them out from their situation where they were 12 for 3 on the first day in the Cape Town test, for example. So there's no Amla and there's no AB de Villiers. Faf is obviously a class player. Markram is a good player, but I don't know enough about the other players. I think is there Rusi? Is Rusi part of the squad for South Africa?
I don't think so. I think what's interesting is Bavuma is there and there's a lot of chat about him, right? He himself is coming out saying, I can play T20s and stuff, but I think within the South African circles, he's very well regarded as a test batsman. You've got your Dean Elgar there. You've got, of course, De Kock. So I think they've got a decent lineup, but I don't think it's as strong as we have seen. Pretty much exactly, DJ, like you said.
Yeah, and I just wonder what kind of pitches we're going to serve up for them, right? Because there was one season where we just gave them turning tracks and bowled them out for fun. But I don't know whether that's going to be Kohli and Shastri's ask of the curators. So I think that the series will turn on how the South African batsmen adjust to the conditions.
Yeah, interesting. I think that's a good point. I think Varun mentioned it well. Like Rassie van der Dusen is not playing, but they do have a reasonably strong batting lineup on paper. Varun, let me ask you quickly about the bowling. So obviously, it's interesting that you think about batting. South Africa has to move on in a post-Amla, post-AB era. But in the bowlers, they have to move on from a guy who took 439 test wickets in just 93 matches. And of course, I'm talking about Dale Steyn. So Kagiso Rabada is basically now the spearhead of the attack. I think Philander's got a ton of experience, but as that out-and-out pacer, they're going to be looking to Rabada to do that. Do you think he can fill the ginormous shoes that Dale Steyn used to walk in for the South African side?
Yeah, I do think so. I think Dale Steyn from 5-7 years ago was a different guy altogether, complete class act. But over the last couple of years, at least whenever India's played them, you've never really felt a threat of Dale Steyn, maybe because he's never played a full series, or not in my memory. I personally, what my view on this entire test series is, it's going to come down to how well the Indian batsmen can face these bowlers, right? Because everyone is assuming India's going in as favorites. It's a home series. India's got the best batting lineup right now. But honestly, with Rabada, Philander, Maharaj, Ngiri, it's not going to be that easy. So if you take your eye off the ball, or if you think this is going to be, a game where, or innings where India's going to score 400, 500, my prediction is that's not going to be the case. The ball will still move in the first 15 overs. And so the Indian batsmen have to be extremely watchful. I do think South Africa's bowling is much better than their batting. And I think if there's any threat for India, it's going to be from them.
Yeah, I think that's very interesting. And I think it'll be really exciting for us to see what sort of pitches we come up with for the South African team touring. I think there's been a lot of discussion through the English summer about England complaining a little about the pitches, etc. Jimmy Anderson, of course, spoke out about them. But Varun, let me wrap up the India-South Africa preview with you, since you mentioned it's not going to be that easy. There are 3 tests being played. The first is Vishakhapatnam, the second is Pune, the third is Ranchi. By the end of the third test and on October 23rd, what is the scoreline going to be?
I'm going to say 2-0 to India.
DJ, your prediction?
I don't know what's going to happen in the third test. Is it going to be rain?
No, I think De Kock and Faf are going to pull off a draw.
Oh, wow. I think I'm going to go with 3-0, man. But we are a very, very strong team at home. We don't even give the Indian team enough credit when they play at home, to be honest. I mean, I'm thinking back to like the 96 tour when South Africa came and we beat them 2-1. And that was seen as an upset, right? When Srinath took all those wickets. I think it was in Ahmedabad. He took last innings, took a bunch of wickets. And then we won in Kanpur. And then we won 3-0 last time, but South Africa are not an easy opponent to beat. Though I still think that they're not going to be any draws. I think last time there were 4 test matches and we won 3-0 because something was rained out. So barring a rain-affected game, I think we'll still win 3-0 and people won't even bat an eyelid. They'll be like, yeah, this is just par for the course. Kohli's a guy who bullies other teams at home and stuff. So unfortunate, but... I think 3-0, my prediction.
Okay, so 2-0 from Varun, 3-0 from DJ. I'm actually going to go a little bit off the radar and say 2-1. And I think just for all the reasons you guys have been talking, I think there's going to be one match where India will grossly miss Bumrah and De Kock, Faf will all bring their best games and we'll probably lose one. I hope I'm wrong, but I think that's where we're going to end up, but we'll still take the series. All right, 2-1 is my prediction. That brings us to the end of our India-South Africa wrap for this upcoming test series. By the time we talk to you next, we should be on day 5 of the final test. We'll probably hold off and join you once the final ball of the first test has been bowled, so we'll know if any of us is on track for the right prediction. All right, guys, we're going to talk about a few other things in the world of cricket, and I'll come to this first because you mentioned this guy playing test cricket, but Suresh Raina has come out and made a statement that he hopes to find his way back into the T20 squad. Ahead of the World Cup next year. He thinks he can slot into that number 4 position. Varun, let me ask you, he's one of your favorite players. I think for the first 10 years of fantasy cricket, you'd never played a Chennai game with Raina not in your fantasy team. I think this past year was different, right? It was the first time you didn't. But do you think this is going to happen? Do you think he's just trying to find a way to be relevant again? What's going on?
So not only did I not play a game without him in my fantasy team, even Chennai didn't play a single game without Raina in their team for the first 10 years. So that shows you how good he is. Mr. IPL, I think he's called. Chin Nutella. It sounds like Chin Nutella, but anyway, I feel like having some dessert right now. But yeah, it's. I mean, I won the only fantasy ever, I think, 2014 T20 World Cup because Raina hit in the final. So he's special to me, but Cricket Info released the pictures where Suresh Raina said, I can be the number 4 for India. I've batted in that slot before and delivered. I'm looking forward to an opportunity with the two T20 World Cups. Of course, I had to take a screenshot and send this around to everyone I knew. And a lot of people actually believe that this is like the selectors having made a statement. But no, Suresh Raina has self-proclaimed that he is ready for this opportunity. I don't see him coming in. But yeah, it's good to know people are still hoping.
Yeah, fair enough. I think I'm 100% with you. I think it would be a step in the wrong direction. It would honestly be Rayudu-esque, right? Like pick the slightly older guy, pick him for experience. And then we know how the Rayudu story went down for the ODI World Cup.
Actually, Sesh, one of my friends, Sesh, messaged me saying that it looks like Raina has been hanging out with Rayudu when that picture came out. So exactly like that.
I mean, they bat for the same team now in the IPL, right? So, DJ, anything to add on the Raina discussion?
Yeah, two things actually to add. One, Raidu's back obviously out of retirement and he scored a duck today. So that's a good way for him to come out of retirement. And the other thing is, Varun, you mentioned a picture released by Cricket Info which you sent around. What you didn't mention was the picture that Ashwin sent around, which is one giraffe on top of a baby giraffe on top of the mother giraffe, which is titled Rena every time someone takes a wicket. So Rena has value other than his runs, I think. So he should definitely be in the squad for me, just to be a cheerleader and a bump batter, if nothing else.
The head of the cheerleading squad.
There you go. That's a good role for him. Every time there's a wicket, you can just visualize Raina running on the field with drinks and getting ready for some bump slaps.
Jumping on everyone, patting everyone. That would be great.
All right, guys, enough about Indian cricket for now. The only thing I'll wrap up to say is that 3 new T20s have been added onto the calendar for January, where Sri Lanka is going to play against India, because obviously we haven't played against Sri Lanka just quite enough in the last few years. So that's going to be on the cards. I think I'm personally glad to see. I'm glad to see more T20s in the lead up to the World Cup. I think that's a good sign from the board. I do think it's not great to be playing Sri Lanka, but that is what it is.
Yeah, we mustn't have played them for the last month, right? So we need to have a series now.
So we're all going through India versus Sri Lanka withdrawal, it seems like. All right, a couple other things happening in the world of cricket. DJ, do you want to talk us through the iconic wicketkeeper retirement from the women's game? Sarah Taylor announced she's stepping away from the game. So talk us through her career a little bit.
Yeah, Sarah Taylor announced that she's going to take a break from cricket, actually a retirement from cricket, because she'd already been on a break for a year previously. And I mean, it's really good to see the accolades that have been pouring in for her. I mean, she was one of the outstanding wicketkeepers of the generation. And I think Adam Gilchrist said that she's the best in the world. Her icon, of course, and the person that she looked up to, of course, is a man very close to my own heart, which is MS Dhoni. And she has watched MS Dhoni and tried to emulate him. And I think in some ways has actually gone ahead of him, because her stumpings down the leg side, and we tweeted a link to some of those stumpings, are just lightning quick. So go and check out our tweet about her. It's just incredible, the presence of mind that she has, the athleticism. And there are some videos where you're just like, how does she do it? Where somebody's throwing 2 cricket balls at her and she's catching them in 2 different hands at the same time. It's just, I mean, it's flabbergasting what she does with that. An incredible wicketkeeper, very naturally talented, and I mean, an excellent batsman as well. Her stats, I mean, she's played only 10 test matches. She doesn't average very high with the bat in there, but I think where she really shone was the ODIs, where she averages 39 and she's played 126 games. She's got 700s, 2050s, and T20s as well. So she's a world champion in both of those formats of the game. And of course, she's had to retire because of troubles with anxiety and stuff. So we wish her well. But I think she's been an icon both on and off the field. Lots of people have started playing the game because of Sarah Taylor. And I think we just wanted to really wish her well in her future endeavors. I think she will remain involved with the game, even if she's not a player. So look forward to seeing her do that. Maybe she can take on something like what James Taylor did with the English cricket team on the men's side.
Yeah, thanks for that. I think really well said and very fitting. So always sad to see such an iconic player of the game go, but we wish her well in the future. I think it's interesting, we're 2019 has been an interesting year for best in the game wicket keepers and those lightning fast stumpings. You mentioned him, but obviously one has officially called it quits. One is kind of on sabbatical, or we don't really know what's going on, but that's fine. We will deal with them as Dhoni in future episodes, probably every other episode between now and when there's more news.
So it's been 34 minutes before you brought up Dhoni.
I know you were keeping count this time, right? You brought him up a few seconds earlier, so technically 33 minutes. But anyway, I can't help it. I'm still in shock as to what's going on with that, but we'll keep going. Varun, there's a couple other things from the news, from the world of cricket news, with Afghanistan and Pakistan both appointing new coaches. Do you want to talk us through that really quickly?
Yeah, so both teams have got a new coach. I'll start with Pakistan. Mickey Arthur was removed, and actually I was reading an article which said the PCB's chief executive Wasim Khan said that there was a lot of robust questioning, and in a cricket committee which included Wasim Akram and Misbah ul Haq, they finally decided to kind of ask him to step down. And then Misbah ul Haq was then appointed as the head coach and chief selector across all three formats for Pakistan cricket on a 3-year contract. And Waqar Younis will be the team's bowling coach. So I personally think it's good for the team. It's good for the side. I mean, Pakistan is ranked number 1 in T20s right now. There are two T20 World Cups coming up. And I think having a combination of Waqar and Misbah will be really good for the team. They'll probably be able to identify with the players a bit more and help them with more than just kind of their batting and bowling skills. So I think I personally think it's a good move for Pakistan cricket.
And Misbah can teach everyone the scoop shot.
Yeah, exactly. And Srishant can just be waiting for the catch. So, which, by the way, incidentally was also this week, right, DJ? I think 12 years ago. Sometime this week is when we won that T20 epic final.
Yeah, it was. It kicked off the IPL revolution, man.
Yeah.
What a time that was.
You tweeted about that. So, but anyway, good news, I think, from my perspective for Pakistan cricket. The exciting news for me is Afghanistan has appointed a new coach, and it's no one else but Lance Klusener. And for our generation of fans, Lance Klusener had to be one of the most exciting names there was in the 90s and probably early 2000s in all forms of cricket at that point. He was just a great all-rounder. And I think the fact that he's been a bowling coach for the Mumbai Indians, he's been a batting coach for South Africa, some domestic leagues within South Africa, just kind of shows you that, I mean, he is an exciting cricketer. Afghanistan is an exciting cricket team. Rashid Khan is one of the most exciting cricketers we have today. I personally am... I mean, I couldn't use any other word except excited, but I am very excited to see Klusener and Rashid Khan combination for Afghanistan.
Fantastic. Thank you. We always knew at the end of a big World Cup there was going to be some new appointments. And so I think what's interesting for the three of us who've been watching cricket a long time, to see players who we've saw playing pretty much their whole careers now step into coaching roles. I mean, Dravid's doing it with the India A team, but obviously Klusener and Misbah, for me, pretty exciting stuff because it's always been players I didn't see growing up coaching side. So I guess that means we're getting old, right? Anyway, lots of interesting stuff, guys. Thanks for staying with us. I think our final thing we wanted to quickly talk about is the India versus South Africa women's series going on. So pretty disappointing that there have been 2 matches abandoned due to rain, 2 of the first 3 T20s, 2 T20s left. But in the one match that was played, the Indian women took that match by about 11 runs. So they batted first, put on 130. Couple of decent performances. Harmanpreet leading from the front with 43. But then the standout for me was defending a target of just 130. Deepti Sharma bowls this magnificent spell. Highlights are all over the place. If you haven't got a chance to, find them and see them. 4 overs, 3 maidens, and 3 wickets for just 8 runs. So that was a game-changing spell. Obviously, she ended up winning player of the match. And let's hope there's more cricket. Honestly, that's the only thing I can hope for now is that the rain stays away from Surat. They've got 2 T20s left, and then they move to Vadodara for 3 ODIs. So lots of good cricket coming both on the men's and women's side. That brings us to a wrap for this week. So thank you for sticking us through episode 77 of the Edges Sledges Cricket Podcast. If you don't follow us already, we're all over social media at One Tip, One Hand. That's the number 1, TIP, number 1 hand. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We'd love to hear from you guys. Reviews are our favorite thing in the world. So if you want to have your review read out on the air, give us 5 stars and send us a screenshot of it. And we will make sure if it's PG and family friendly, we'll make sure to read it out. But again, that brings us to the end. Guys, thanks for joining us. We will be back with you at the end of India versus South Africa, the first test match. And hopefully we'll be sharing some positive news on some great standout performances by the Indian side. So thanks for tuning in and see you next week.
Janice, what do you think couples did before TV was invented?
I don't know, go for walks on the beach, long drives, fancy dinners, have more sex maybe?
But what did we do when we decided to move in together? We debated between the Chromecast and the Fire Stick.
We gave up on sleeping early so we could stay up watching true crime shows.
We got ourselves 3 cat babies.
And basically became the cutest couch potatoes around.
Okay then.
In case you guys still haven't got it, we are a TV crazy, Netflix loving, binge watching Mr. and Mrs.
I'm Anirudh Guha.
I'm Janice Sequeira.
And if like us, you snort TV for breakfast, lunch and dinner, this is the podcast for you.
Tune in every Thursday on the IVM Podcast app or wherever it is that you get your podcast from. This is
Mr.
and Mrs.
Binge Watch.
Hello, everybody. We have a brand new daily podcast we're working on with Bloomberg Quint. All you need to know provides the top news on business, markets, and the economy so that you can stay ahead of the curve. Tune in every morning on BloombergQuint.com, the IVM Podcast app, or wherever you get your podcast from.